Good morning. Morning. Very good. Well, we're small but cozy. Thank you all for coming. My name is Ray Knutson, and it's my pleasure to serve as the worship leader today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome to everyone. And if you're joining us online, please fill out a visitor form in the link in the description so that we can connect with you. Some of us are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us, well, we're struggling. All of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Some of us have already opened our hearts, and some of us aren't quite ready just yet because our hearts have gotten a little beaten up lately. Your heart is welcome here, no matter how bruised. We welcome you amongst us. All of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship is powerful and life-giving. Together we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser. Wiser than when we woke up this morning. We welcome you here. You probably know by looking around, most people are up in Allen's Park enjoying cool weather and under wonderful classes. But I'm glad to be here with you. And I send our good wishes up the hill to the members of our congregation in Allen's Park. And now, it is my genuine pleasure to invite our guest minister, Lisa Moore, to the pulpit. Lisa?
Good morning and welcome. My name is Lisa Moore. I graduated seminary this last May from Meadville Lombard Theology School in Chicago with my MDiv, and I am currently a candidate for ministry with the UUA. I will be seeing the Ministerial Fellowship Committee in December, and they are the credentialing body that decides if we are ready to become reverends. So my hope is that I will pass and get papered. I'll be all official. So I want to welcome you today again with wherever you are and whoever you are and however you are. I am grateful to see you and accompany you for this next hour or so. Greetings and blessed be.
If you could all stand up as you're able with me, we're going to be singing a hymn called Love, There Is More Love Somewhere. And fantastic, it is up on the slide. That is wonderful. As we go about the verses, there is more love, the word will change, and I will help call it out to you. So let's sing the song together. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
You might be right. I might be crazy. Oh, come on. So, as a seminarian at Meadville Lombard, I had an opportunity to study for 3 weeks at a Shinto shrine in Japan. And this was back in 2019, so I didn't have to worry about anything. Actually, I was the last person who was able to go because of pandemic. A friend of mine was supposed to go in 2020 and is still patiently waiting, and she's already been ordained. It's amazing how life happens sometimes. I studied at Tsubaki Grand Shrine in Suzuka-shi Prefecture. And I realized, let me back up a little bit. I was a scholarship recipient, and I was able to be in Japan studying Shinto at a shrine for 3 weeks, and it was extraordinary. And I acknowledge that being 3 weeks at a shrine, at a specific place, the Jinja, is an entirely different experience than going to Japan or anywhere else as a tourist. So I am acknowledging the privilege that I got by getting the scholarship, and how fortunate I was. And one of the things is that Shinto is, it's the religion of culture. It is what is embedded. It was the original religion, and it was actually the religion of the state until 1945. It originated organically, and the most basic way to describe it would be that it could be considered kind of like earth-centered and or a pantheistic type of faith. And in one of the readings that I did, I have an excerpt from. They had given me a whole mess of books to read. And I found that this paragraph might explain it better than I can, a little bit. Shinto is a spiritual tradition that emphasizes each person's sacred nature. Humankind is a descendant of the kami, and that is spelled K-A-M-I. And these are the spiritual beings who have existed since the universe congealed. As descendants of the kami, we have innate brightness within us. From time to time, this luster may be dulled through impurities and incorrect action. However, through the rituals of Shinto, we may purify ourselves, restoring the original luster and luminosity, and finding great joy in our lives. The very simplicity of Shinto forces us to profoundly search our own hearts for the correct path. For Shinto does not provide us doctrines by which to live. Instead, it connects us to an ancient archetypal spirituality which was developed thousands of years ago and yet has permitted individual creativity and interpretation so that it remains meaningful and emotionally powerful in our modern day world. Shinto is based on spontaneous awareness of the divine in all creation, including humankind, other sentient beings, living nature such as trees, and natural matter such as mountains, rivers, and other formations. And I do not have which book I read that from. That is in another document, and I can look that up if anybody's curious. So, because there is kami everywhere, and in almost everything, it's almost impossible to separate the sacred from the mundane in Japan, in most parts of it. Instead of the concept of original sin that I was born into in my faith of birth and that I had to grow up with, Shinto gives the gift of original divinity. We are all children of the kami and have kami energy within us. So my talk today is about finding sacredness in the mundane. And so with that last little sentence there, Shinto gives the gift of original divinity. We are all children of the kami and have kami energy within us. You might want to think of that as the first thing to think of when you want to bring more sacredness into your life. Remember that you are part of the divine.
Chalice lighting time, my favorite. Our flaming chalice is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It suggests that within our separate selves burns a flame of unity and connection and compassion. Once felt, that fire cannot be extinguished. And so we gather, weaving our lives together. Janet Kern, a member of this church, as you probably know, was scheduled to deliver a chalice lighting message today. But unfortunately, she recently tested positive for COVID. To her credit, and my eternal happiness or pleasure, she had already drafted her chalice lighter comments, and I will read them now. I hope I can do justice to them with the power that I feel when I read them. I hope I can convey that to you. So these are Janet's words. Chalice lighting, why do we do it? Well, it marks the beginning of the time in our Sunday service when we focus on the importance of being here for each other and the important work we have to do. It represents the light of reason and the illumination of justice, the flame of hope and the warmth of commitment. The vessel holding the flame represents a cup overflowing with blessings that are often waiting to be discovered. So these are some reasons for the chalice and the flame. But what's the reason for the chalice lighter? Well, if every church member or friend would take a turn at being a chalice lighter, think of how many more faces and names you could put together. And based on the story or reading delivered by the chalice lighter, you not only have a face and a name, but you also have a little bit of information about that person. We are all on some sort of religious, spiritual journey. And sometimes this can feel a bit lonely. But when we articulate our journey, it then becomes a shared experience. Learning and caring about each other's journey can help us realize we are not alone in our search. The reflection you deliver in a chalice lighting talk is your opportunity to share with us something important to you. What brought you to the UU religion? What has your spiritual journey looked like? Perhaps your words, your stories will help us in our own searches. Lighting the chalice gives us a chance to get to know each other a little bit better and a way for us to connect with each other. And now I light this flame of hope in anticipation that you will answer positively when called upon to be a chalice lighter. Thank you, Janet, for those words. Our covenant. We are not bound together by a creed, a specific list of things we all believe exactly the same way, but we are united by shared values expressed in our 7 principles and by the commitments we make to each other about what this creates. Let me start again. About what creates this community. To name that commitment, will you join together in person and online and speak our covenant aloud as one? And please rise. One way to get you all squeezed together. If you're ready. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. Thank you. Did I see something else?
No,
Blessings and principles.
yeah, it says there was something about having people. Did anybody read it?
Oh, thank you.
I didn't.
No, you're right.
Okay.
My mistake.
No.
There was a blessing and concern. In fact, it's right here, and you're free to read it.
Thank you. All right. Oh. Bring to mind those things for which you are grateful or joyful. Bring to mind those things for which you grieve or worry. For all the joys and sorrows on our hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. I do have one, it looks like kind of a joy here from John Cuddington. Thank you. All church barbecue after the service on September 11th. Please attend. For those of us meeting in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved. Silently take a stone and place it into the earth to symbolize your joy and or your concern that are taking, and your cares that are taking their place in the larger whole, mingling with each other and held in the hand of the earth. Who jumps up first thing in the morning and goes, huzzah, I am so excited to clean the toilet? Anybody? No? Balance your checkbook. What about some of the things that you actually really do enjoy? Not big things like going and taking this great trip or buying a new car or anything like that, but just those little things that you do every day. Maybe it's having a cup of coffee or tea, taking a walk, being in your garden. Do you make time for them? And do you acknowledge how special that time is when you are doing them? As Unitarian Universalists, I occasionally hear some of us lament that our faith can seem so head-centered and a little bit more head-centered than heart-centered. As I was telling you, I had studied for 3 weeks at a Shinto shrine in Japan, which is also called a jinja. And it's Tsubaki Grand Shrine or Grand Jinja. So my first day there, they give me this stack of books to read so I could start getting an idea of what Shinto was about. Because while I was prepping for this trip and having conversations, they're just like, some of it was just, you'll just have to kind of experience it when you get there. One day, in an effort to get my head around Shinto and the Japanese culture, I asked one of the priests there, I said, if a person is born in Japan and is of Japanese heritage, are they essentially Shinto even though they might not actively practice? And he replied that yes, because there are so many little aspects that are woven into the fabric of Japanese culture that Shinto and Japan don't separate themselves easily. Sometimes like how we do something and we don't realize that we're doing it because we've always done it that way. When a person first arrives at the shrine grounds, there is some purification that they do. And purification is really important, actually, throughout all of Shinto. Upon entering the shrine grounds, there is these large rock basins. They're hewn out, and they have fountains of water going into them, so people can do a ritual purification with water to cleanse off any thoughts and deeds, and also just kind of gently wipe off any little dirt on their hands before they actually go into the shrine. When they enter, there is, and people may have seen these large, they're called torii gates that you can walk through. And as they enter, or as they pass any of the sacred places, they will stop. They will bow twice, clap twice, and then bow again to acknowledge where they are at. It also starts the morning prayers and any of the other rituals that take place, and it usually ends them as well. Which gives me the first couple questions for you when we're thinking about creating some sacredness in our everyday lives. Are those things that seem overly mundane or that we don't really want to do? For me, that's dishes. I get them done, and by golly, there's another one. But it's that sense of place, that sense of how can I honor the sacredness of where I'm at? Have I made my home a haven for myself? When I look at it, before I enter, do I say, wow, this is awesome? Or before I leave, do I look at it and pray that all is good and safe inside? Have you created any little sanctuaries in your spaces to acknowledge how wonderful and privileged it is to possibly have a roof over our head? So how can I honor the sacredness of where I'm at? Am I stepping foot onto the place that many consider sacred? Maybe like this church? Is the place sacred to me? And when I consider something special or sacred, do I treat it any differently? I bring up cleaning a lot because, for a couple different reasons. One, sometime in the mid-90s, I remember getting this magazine, I think it was called New Age Journal. It actually might have come out of Boulder. And I remember this one time there was this article, and it was something about housekeeping as a spiritual practice. And I don't remember much of the article, as much as I remember thinking about how absurd the idea was. Because when I was growing up, my mom had a plaque on the wall that said, "A clean house is a sign of a wasted life." Fast forward over 25 years, and I'm in Japan. I'm outdoors, and I'm sweeping leaves off gravel pathways at a shrine that is woven into a forest. And that is soji, or cleaning. And it is something that they do the first thing in the morning before most of the people coming to worship show up. And they take the little leaves and they put them back in with the trees. And it seems like a never-ending process because as soon as you get the gravel swept up, well, look at there's another leaf. And it's a gift. And it was a blessing for me to switch how I viewed my cleaning that I really thought was a sign of a wasted life because I should be out experiencing the world instead of experiencing myself in the world. And so I started to notice what I did and with what intent I put behind it. Did I say, "Oh, gee, I gotta go do these dishes. Oh gosh, I left them overnight and now there's sticky stuff and it feels weird"? Or did I look at it as, I've got to get these clean, and that'll keep bugs away, and it'll feel better, and it'll make my space look nicer because they'll be clean and they'll be put where they belong, and I won't have to look at them dirty in the dishes in the sink. And I started seeing that instead as a blessing, as a gift to myself, as a gift to the people who came and visited me, so that they also would have a calm space to be in. On a side note, I have ADD, and so sometimes this is even more of a chore than I would like because I start doing one thing and I notice, oh, look at over here, I could do this really quick over there, and then the thing that I originally started can just send me off. So so it has been not only a spiritual practice for me, but a mental practice as well. So think of the things that you do that maybe aren't your favorite. And what would it look like, or how would it feel, or what would your state of being be if you looked at those things that are kind of mundane, that you do every day, that you're not that fond of, or weekly, as a blessing to you, to those around you, to the universe? Does it change anything inside you? One of the other things that I have noticed is that, especially during seminary, sometimes it was difficult for me to do some of the things that I really like to do. The everyday things, or acknowledging them. And this changed a lot while I was in Japan, just by noticing the simple act of what I was doing. And some of that is, I notice, I like a warm beverage in the morning. And most of the time it's coffee, and some of the time it's tea. But having the process of making it, smelling the grounds or the leaves, listening to the pot brewing, holding and pouring that first cup and holding it for a moment and inhaling the steam and the aromas coming up in and reminding me of the things, more things that I am grateful for. Gave me a moment to pause on something that I did that I really liked and didn't really appreciate. And in that moment, I experienced some gratitude just because, darn it, that beverage is really tasty. And for the people who made it possible that I could drink it. I expressed gratefulness to the universe and to the earth that was allowed those, those leaves or beans to grow. I expressed gratitude to the people who understood the science of making something so that it could be enjoyed by many easily and all over the world. One of the other things, and this has really helped me, I know, for doing dishes, is noticing that it's just that the process of doing it is just as important, or sometimes more so, than the finished product. Like I said, I will never get done with dishes or laundry or balancing my checkbook. I imagine most of you won't either. It just kind of doesn't happen that way. So if I look at it as a process instead of just trying to be finished and done with it, how does that change how I am interacting in that time and space? As I start a meal or finish a meal, do I say a blessing and acknowledge, again, all the abundance that happened for that to come in front of me? And when I'm done, I've gotten in the habit of actually trying to say also that I am finished, and another grace and abundance. This gives me a better stop of saying, I am done, this is good, and I can take the plates away and clean them off or do whatever I need to do. Some of this also gives me a chance to honor my own inherent dignity and my own inherent divinity. If I take the time to do the things to care for myself, whether it be something that I really enjoy, like taking the dog for a walk, or something that is sometimes more of a struggle for me, like doing the dishes, how do I feel afterwards if I'm mindful and honor and create some sacred space around that? So I've got a few questions as we go through this, and I will we'll do the meditation afterwards. So how can you honor your own inherent divinity and acknowledge your sacredness and what you do as sacred? What can you do daily that you can bring more sacred intent into? While a couple years back when we were on Zoom, it was the first UUA, GA, and everybody was on Zoom, and beforehand there's ministry days, and I remember one of the ministers talking about how she actually started sweeping her deck first thing in the morning, and it of course brought back all the memories to me from the previous year about sweeping leaves off gravel. Because it's a never-ending process, but it's still a blessing, and creating that sacred space and a time of beginning for the day. And she talked about how she would take the broom and sweep up in the corners and then bring it down around the sides of the door, and out she goes and pushes the dust and dirt and cobwebs back out into nature, creating a space for her that has been cleansed. Is there any preparation that one can do before they start their task? I have taken most days to start doing journaling in the morning, and it has turned a little bit more sacred over the time. As I first started just going, oh, geez, I've got to do this because it's part of my coursework, to I'm starting to enjoy this and I'm getting something out of it, and I start having my coffee with it, and so there's that pause of enjoying that first sip before the pen touches the paper, and having the coffee with me in the warmth. And then I started lighting my chalice to acknowledge that this was very sacred time, and extinguishing it when I was done, to acknowledge that this time has ended for the time being, and I was going to be on to something different. The sacredness might not necessarily leave, it just changes. Where are the places that I like to go that I can recognize as sacred? And entering location that many consider sacred. Is the place sacred to me? Ray, and actually Janet, who wrote it, talked about the chalice lighters. I would hope that most of us find our church as sacred ground. And what can we do here that might only take a few minutes, but is vitally sacred and blesses us and those around us with our grace and our words and our compassion, and gives us a chance to know each other better? One of the things that I noticed, and there were a lot of things that I noticed, but one of the main things that I noticed when I was studying in Japan was the lack of litter and graffiti and trash receptacles, because people carry it with them until they get home. And I remember once seeing something on the ground, and I picked it up and put it in my pocket because it was just becoming commonplace for me after being there with people who were doing the same exact thing for a while. And then I remembered, well, I picked it up and I'm like, okay, where's the trash can? And it stayed in my pocket until I think I got home or back to my room that evening, because I never really did find one. And it turns out there's not a lot of them there because people just pick this stuff up, shove it in their pocket, and take it home and recycle it. And how would it be to do something like that as a blessing to myself? To just say, oh, here's a piece of trash, because I know things have fallen out of my pockets or my purse or my, whatever I happen to be schlepping around, because if you notice, I've got a 50-pound backpack over there. Things are bound to fall out of it. If I know that something's going to fall out of my pack, why would, and it's not, and it's just an accident, why would I not think that's not going to happen to somebody else? And if I think it that way, instead of, look, who left that litter here? How could they? Instead of, maybe I'll say, man, I've been there. I hate when I do that. And pick it up and throw it away, because there's actually a lot more trash cans around here than there are. Just knowing that maybe somebody else had a similar experience or a more difficult day, and I will bless them and pick it up and throw it out. Not all the time, but I do try, instead of lamenting that there was litter there. It's kind of, I think of it as pay it forward, but it's not really, because pay it forward, we're like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing. And then there's always somebody who's going to get there in the line and say, I can't pay it forward. I don't have the resources, I don't have the money, I don't have whatever. And it stops. And so it's just a little bit of a slight tweak. I'm just doing this because it blesses me, because it blesses the environment, because it blesses the universe, because it is part of my core belief system. There are so many ways to create more sacredness in our lives. And I'm going to invite you now into a meditation. So if you want to find a comfortable spot or space, you are also welcome. If it feels more appropriate, if you want to stand and move while you're doing this, you are more than welcome to. And take a couple nice cleansing breaths, breathing in love and breathing in what serves you, and exhaling anything that does not serve you. Also exhaling peace and compassion to others around you. Now think of something. It can be kind of one of two things. Either it can be something that you have to do on a regular basis that you're not too fond of doing, or it can be something that you do pretty regularly that you might enjoy and that you might like to make more of or acknowledge more of it in your life. So as you're thinking of what that is, I'm going to mention these questions again. In that task or that doing or being, how can I honor my own inherent divinity? Is there any preparation that needs to be done before the task is started? Does something need to be cleaned off, put away, or brought out from the cupboards? Are there any starting or ending gestures and words that can be used to recognize the sacredness in what is being done? Something maybe as simple as lighting a chalice and extinguishing it. Now, as you have what you are doing in your mind, start to visualize actually doing the thing from the beginning to the end. Maybe in fast forward, because we only have X amount of time. But visualize it. You might want to even move with the gestures of what you might be doing, or you can just really deeply imagine it in your mind. As you continue this meditation, you realize that your task is coming to a close and you finish off. Again, is there anything you can do to acknowledge that this time is coming to a close? Note how sacred that time was that you did whatever you were doing. And now, as you come out of that meditation, what felt different? Did you notice a different sensation than you might have before as you imagined doing whatever you were doing? Did something feel more in tune? Were there sensations, thoughts? How is your heartbeat or your pulse? Your breathing? Did you notice that this felt more like a blessing and it might be something that you can do, or maybe it's something that maybe when you get back home you'll try it somewhere different, and that's okay too. Not everything has to be done with a sacred intent. But sometimes if we can shift our mind and our heart a little bit toward that direction, we might notice a little bit more ease and compassion for us, for those around us, and for the universe of which we are a part. Amen, and blessed be.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed, love, and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell a story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Thank you, Ben. This month, our offering goes to support the programs of our beloved UUCB Church. I invite you to give as generously as you are able. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those gathered in person, you can scan the QR code behind me or put a check in the baskets that the ushers are about to pass. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
We receive the offering with gratitude. It is the outward and visible manifestation of an inward commitment to changing lives and changing our community. The closing words are from Samuel A. Trumbore. Go forth in simplicity. Find and travel the path that leads to compassion and to wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. I now invite you to rise in body or as in spirit as we close in song.
Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way. Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way.